If poverty was a man, people in Enugu would have called him Obioma. He was the kind of man who could walk past a pot of hot jollof rice and still boast that cold garri with groundnut was the food of champions. They called him the ambassador of poverty because he ruled his life of lack as if it was a kingdom. Obioma's old zinc roof could sing louder than a church choir whenever rain fell. And he would proudly say, "No rich man can buy this kind of music." His plastic chair had a broken back, yet he would introduce it to visitors as Italian design. And every evening, under the mango tree at the village square, Obioma preached like a pastor, telling anyone who cared to listen that poverty was better than riches. To him, rich men were ritualistic, thieves, or restless souls who never slept well at night. But Obioma slept soundly on his tin mattress with 2 eyes closed and snored loudly as if he was enjoying the sweetest peace on earth. People laughed, nodded, and sometimes even clapped. But what Obioma did not know was that his crown of poverty would soon be tested in a way that would shake his entire world. Because one day, a black SUV rolled into the village, carrying a man he once knew. A man who had escaped poverty and returned not just with wealth, but with kindness that would expose every lie Obioma had been preaching under that mango tree. And that, my friends, is where our story begins. In the heart of Enugu, there lived a man named Obioma. But the people of his street had given him a special title, the Ambassador of Poverty. Not because he was voted in, but because he wore poverty with so much pride that you would think it was a government appointment. Obioma was in his late 30s, tall but lean like someone who had been stretched by hardship. His shoulders always bent forward, not from humility, but from years of carrying the invisible weight of lack. His one-room apartment looked like a museum of survival. Brown walls that once had white paint, a zinc roof patched with so many different colors that if you climbed a nearby tree and looked down, you would think a child had drawn on it with crayons. When the rain came, that zinc roof turned into a noisy choir, banging and rattling in different pitches. Obioma would simply smile and say, "No rich man can buy this kind of free music." Inside his room, things were no better. His bed squeaked like a crying goat each time he turned, and his most prized possession was a cracked plastic chair, which he proudly called Italian design. Whenever visitors came, he would lean on it carefully and boast, "Original from Europe." But what made Obioma popular wasn't just his poverty. It was the way he defended it. Every evening, as the sun melted behind the hills, Obioma would sit under the big mango tree at the village square with his congregation. These were men who were either too tired from work, too broke to go home, or simply hungry for gist. There, Obioma became a preacher, raising his sachet of gin like a microphone and declaring, "My brothers, poverty is peace of mind. No kidnapper will disturb you. No poisoner will target you. And you sleep with 2 eyes closed. But the rich man, he doesn't even snore well again." The crowd would nod, laugh, and clap as if he had dropped divine wisdom. Even the children called him Odogwon Kitty, the great man of poverty. And so, Obioma wore his crown proudly, believing he was not just poor, but chosen. Little did he know, very soon, life would drag him out of that crown and test every single word he had ever preached. Evening in Obioma's village was never complete without his sermon. The mango tree at the square was his church, the dusty ground his altar, and his cracked plastic chair his throne. By the time the sun dipped low and the shadows grew longer, Obioma's congregation would gather. Not because they were true believers, but because they needed entertainment after a long day. There was Ifiayi, the barber, whose shop had more gossip than customers. He was strolling, still holding his rusty clippers like a staff of office. There was Sunday, the Okada man, who claimed he was resting but had actually not carried passengers in months. And there was Ngozi, the tailor, whose sewing machine shook and groaned as though it needed deliverance. Together, they were Obioma's loyal choir, always ready to nod and shout, "True talk!" Obioma would stand, raise his sachet of gin like a microphone, and begin. "My people, listen to me. Money is trouble. When a poor man and his wife quarrel, where will the woman go? She has no transport fare, so she stays, and they make peace. But the rich man and his wife, when they quarrel, one flight to London, marriage scatter. Tell me, is money not the enemy?" The crowd would burst into laughter, some clapping, some shaking their heads in agreement. He continued, "You see these rich people building big houses in a Enugu town? They can't sleep well inside. At night, their spirits chase them. But look at me. My zinc roof sings me lullaby. I sleep with both eyes closed and even snore like lion. Which one is better?" Even passers-by would stop to listen, drawn by his dramatic hand gestures and booming voice. Children called him the ambassador of poverty, and he wore the name like a crown. In Obioma's eyes, he wasn't just poor. He was a defender of truth, saving people from the dangerous trap of wealth. He believed poverty was not just his life, but his calling. But as his voice rose under that mango tree, fate was already preparing a surprise that would silence his sermons. It was one of those hot Enugu afternoons, when the air itself felt tired. Women selling okpa had slowed their voices. Children chasing old bicycle tires were dragging their feet. And even the village goats were chewing leaves lazily. Suddenly, the peace of the square shattered. A black SUV rolled into the village, its engine humming like a quiet lion. The car was so clean you could see your face on the door. Instantly, the square froze. The children stopped running. Women forgot to shout, and men under the mango tree sat upright. Even Sunday, the Okada man swallowed hard. His own motorcycle had been resting for 2 years, but this machine looked like something from another world. The SUV stopped right in front of Mama Uchi's shop. Slowly, the tinted windows slid down, and then the door opened. Out stepped a tall, broad-shouldered man in his spotless white senator outfit, gold watch gleaming in the sun, shoes polished so well that they reflected the dust they stepped on. "Is that not Chinedu?" Ifeayi the Baba whispered, his mouth hanging open. It was indeed Chinedu, Obioma's childhood friend. The same boy who once climbed mango trees with him, stole roasted corn, and swore that if they never made it, they would proudly die broke together. But here he was, transformed. He didn't look like a man who had struggled. He looked like a man who had conquered. The mango tree congregation turned to look at Obioma, waiting for his reaction. Obioma cleared his throat, adjusted his torn shirt, and forced a smile. But inside, his pride was shaking like a leaking kerosene lamp. Chinedu walked straight to him, stretched out his arms and hugged him idly. "Obioma, my brother, long time," he said warmly. Obioma muttered with a crooked smile. "Ah, so you still remember us poor people." The crowd chuckled, but Obioma's eyes betrayed his unease. Then Chinedu dropped the bomb. "Obioma, I have a small business in Enugu. Honest work, nothing shady. I need someone I can trust. You came to my mind. Come with me. You will earn good money and help your family." The square went silent. The mango tree followers leaned forward, eager for Obioma's answer. Here it was, the chance to test every sermon he had ever preached. Would the ambassador of poverty accept, or would he defend his crown? Before we go on, if you love powerful African stories just like this one, hit that subscribe button now to join us at African Folktales with Onyi. More thrilling tales are waiting for you. Now, let's step back into the story. The mango tree square was buzzing. Never before had opportunity walked in wearing white senator and polished shoes. The men leaned forward, their sachets of gin forgotten, their ears wide open. Everyone wanted to hear more about this honest job that Chinedu had brought. Chinedu's voice was calm and steady, the kind of voice that carried both confidence and kindness. "Obioma," he said, placing a hand on his old friend's shoulder. "This is simple work, no tricks. You will sit in an office, answer calls, keep records, and help with accounts. You will be paid well every month. I will even pay your first year's rent and give you transport allowance. All I need is someone I can trust." The crowd gasped. Ifea in the barber whispered loudly, "This is how destiny knocks, gently but with big gifts." Even Sunday, the Okada man nodded so hard you would think his neck would snap. But Obioma's face darkened like gathering rain. His lips tightened and his eyes narrowed. Inside him, pride and fear danced together like masquerades. Instead of hearing opportunity, his ears were ringing with suspicion. "Obioma, Chinedu, I beg you, don't use me for ritual. I don't want to drive Prado Jeep and die before 40. The crowd erupted with laughter. Some clapped, others covered their mouths, but all eyes stayed fixed on Obioma. Was he serious? Chinedu chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Obioma, I know you. You've always been suspicious. But this is clean work, my brother. No ritual, no blood, just normal hustle." But Obioma leaned back on his cracked plastic chair, squinting his eyes like a detective. "My friend, there is no such thing as clean money again. All these your rich friends, I don't want to know how they made it. I prefer my peace of mind." The silence that followed was heavy. For the first time, some of Obioma's followers looked unsure. Was he wise or just foolish? Chinedu sighed, rubbed his forehead, and finally said, "Obioma, just think about it. I'll be around for a while. If you change your mind, come and see me." Then he turned, entered his SUV, and drove off, leaving the dust of opportunity behind. The mango tree murmured with restless whispers. Ifeanyi the barber shook his head. "This man no serious. Opportunity just knock and he bolt the door." But Obioma, adjusting himself proudly on his chair, declared, "Money is sweet, yes, but sleep is sweeter. I will not sell my peace of mind for salary." The mango tree was silent. For the first time, the ambassador of poverty did not sound like a prophet. He sounded like a man running from his own shadow. The village soon realized that Chinedu's return was not just about shining cars and clean clothes. He had come back with something far more powerful: generosity. It started slowly, like raindrops before a storm. One by one, Obioma's faithful poverty disciples began drifting away. At first, he didn't notice. He still carried his cracked plastic chair to the mango tree, still raised his sachet of gin like a prophet's staff, and still preached his sermons about how money was the enemy of peace. But the crowd was thinning. The first blow came from Ifeanyi the barber. Chinedu had noticed his little shop and quietly paid him to give free haircuts to the scholarship children. Suddenly, his rusty clippers were buzzing from morning till night. When Obioma looked for him one evening, Ifeanyi simply waved and said, "Ambassador, no vexo, business don't come." Next was Sunday, the Okada man. For 2 years, his bike had been resting. But one morning, villagers saw him flying down the dusty road with fresh fuel and new tires. He was smiling from ear to ear, carrying messages and errands for Chinedu. When Obioma tried to joke that Sunday had betrayed the Ministry of Poverty, the man only laughed. "Chairman, abeg, poverty too stubborn. Let me just hustle small." The final betrayal came from Nguzi the tailor. Once the loudest "true talk" shouter at Obioma's sermons, he now spent his evenings bent over his sewing machine, stitching new uniforms for Chinedu's scholarship kids. He even bragged, "Chai, since last week, my machine no stop. If this is jazz, may the jazz continue." Obioma sat alone under the mango tree one evening, staring at the empty benches. Only 2 old men remained, half asleep, nodding not in agreement, but in boredom. When he tried to preach, his words sounded thin, bouncing back at him like an echo in an empty hall. "Ambassador," a boy teased as he passed,
If poverty is sweet, why your followers don't run leave you? The laughter stung more than he expected. For the first time, Obioma felt the sharp edge of loneliness. The mango tree that once echoed with cheers now felt like a graveyard of broken pride. But instead of bending, he lifted his chin stubbornly. If the world wanted to leave him, he would remain the last defender of poverty. Or so he thought.
The real test of Obioma's poverty pride came without warning. One hot afternoon, while he was enjoying a late meal of cold gari and groundnut, a frantic knock shook his door. It was his niece, little Amarachi, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Uncle, uncle, Mama has fainted." Obioma jumped up so quickly that his cracked plastic chair gave a loud protest. He ran barefoot down the dusty road to his mother's small hut. The scene broke him. Mama Obioma, a strong woman who rarely complained of pain, was lying weak on a raffia mat, her chest rising and falling slowly. Neighbors fanned her with pieces of cardboard, offering all kinds of advice, but it was clear. This was serious. "We must take her to the clinic," Obioma cried. Ekekenapep was flagged down, and together they carried his mother, her frail body bouncing gently as the tricycle rattled along the uneven road. When they arrived at the only decent clinic in town, the nurse at the reception looked at them casually, chewing gum. "Deposit is 65,000 naira before doctor can touch her," she said flatly. The words slammed into Obioma's ears like thunder. 65,000 naira, he repeated, hoping maybe he had misheard. "Yes," the nurse replied, already calling the next patient. "Cash or transfer?" Obioma's hands trembled. Transfer? His account was emptier than a dry well. His emergency savings, a crumpled 2,500 naira hidden in an old powdered milk tin under his bed, suddenly felt like a joke. He tried to beg, "Madam, please, I can pay 2,500 naira now. I will balance the rest later." The nurse didn't even blink. No deposit, no treatment. Outside, Obioma sat on the wooden bench, burying his face in his hands. For years, he had preached that poverty was peace of mind, that money only brought problems. But right there, as his mother struggled for life inside, his philosophy felt like cheap gin burning in his throat. Poverty was not peace, it was prison. And in that crushing moment, one name rang in his heart like a bell. Chinedu, the very man he mocked, might now be the only one who could save his mother. Obioma had always carried himself like a man who needed nothing from anyone. But that evening, as he left the clinic with his mother's shallow breathing still ringing in his ears, his pride cracked like an overripe palm kernel. He walked slowly towards Chinedu's compound, each step heavier than the last. The tall black gate alone looked richer than his entire room. A young security man in neat uniform stood by the entrance. "Yes, sir. Who you want see?" the guard asked. He cleared his throat. I want to see Chinedu." Minutes later, Chinedu himself appeared, holding a cup of tea, looking relaxed. The moment his eyes met Obioma's, he smiled warmly. "Obioma, my brother, at last you came. So, you've agreed to take the job." Obioma's lips twitched. He wanted the ground to swallow him. His voice came out small, stripped of its usual thunder. Not exactly. My mother, she fainted. The clinic said 65,000 naira deposit before they can treat her. Chinedu, I don't have it." He expected laughter. He expected mockery. He expected Chinedu to remind him of every mango tree sermon about ritual money and restless rich men. Instead, Chinedu's expression softened. Without a word, he turned, walked back into the house, and returned with a neat brown envelope. He pressed it into Obioma's trembling hands. "Take it, and don't worry about paying me back. Just take care of Mama." Obioma froze. The envelope felt heavier than gold. His throat tightened. His eyes stung. You're just giving me like that?" Chinedu smiled. "Obioma, poverty is not peace of mind. It is just silent suffering. You've been wearing it like a crown, but it has been crushing you. Now go, save Mama." Obioma couldn't speak. For the first time in his life, the ambassador of poverty felt like a fraud. All his years of boasting under the mango tree could not compare to this moment of kindness. Clutching the envelope, he ran back to the clinic, and as the doctors rushed his mother into treatment, one truth began to hammer in his chest. Sometimes, pride is heavier than poverty itself. Mama Obioma was recovering slowly, thanks to Chinedu's money and the doctor's care. Each time Obioma visited her at the clinic, she would hold his hand and whisper, "God bless Chinedu. That boy saved my life." The words pierced Obioma's chest like arrows. He smiled weakly, but inside, he felt like the ground had shifted beneath him. A week later, Chinedu sent for him. Obioma nearly refused, afraid of another lecture that would expose his pride. But something stronger than fear, gratitude and shame pushed him to go. In Chinedu's sitting room, cool with ceiling fans and smelling faintly of polish, Obioma sat stiffly on a soft cushioned chair that threatened to swallow him whole. Chinedu smiled. "Obioma, I know you. I know you don't like office work, so let me make this simple. I have a small delivery job. You'll use a motorcycle to drop documents and small packages around town. The hours are flexible, the pay is steady, and the bike? Already fueled." Obioma laughed nervously, scratching his head. You know I don't like waka waka up and down." Chinedu leaned forward. "It's honest work. No tricks, no rituals. Just help me move things from point A to point B. You will even collect your pay every week." Silence hung in the room. For the first time, Obioma's excuses felt meat. Slowly, he nodded. "Okay, but only small for now." The next morning, Obioma stood outside his room wearing a clean blue shirt Chinedu had given him. Around his neck hung an ID card with his name boldly printed. His neighbors blinked in surprise, unused to seeing him look so official. When Chinedu handed him the motorcycle keys, his hands trembled. As he kicked the engine and the bike roared to life, a strange feeling swept over him. Pride? Fear? Or was it something new? Hope? For the first time in his life, the ambassador of poverty was sneaking into a new life. A life he didn't want the Mango Tree Committee to know about. Not yet. For weeks, Obioma moved like a thief in his own village. Every evening, instead of taking his usual seat under the mango tree, he found longer routes back home after his deliveries. He wore his new blue shirt with pride, but in secret. His ID card dangled around his neck like his evidence of betrayal, and he didn't want his old disciples to see it. But secrets have short legs. One Thursday afternoon, as he rode the motorcycle back from town, the unexpected happened. At the roadside, by a woman's roasting stand, stood Ifeanyi the barber and Sunday the Okada man. They were laughing over roasted plantain when suddenly their eyes landed on him. Obioma froze. They froze. For a heartbeat, even the smoke from the roasting fire seemed to pause.
Then came the explosion. "Ah!" Ifeanyi shouted, pointing like a man who had just seen a ghost. "Is this not our ambassador for poverty? The same Obioma who said office work is ritual initiation. Look at him now, wearing fine shirt and ID card." Sunday laughed so hard he nearly choked on his plantain. He slapped his thigh, tears rolling down his cheeks. "Chai! Ambassador done defect. He has joined the rich men's choir." Obioma stammered, his hands trembling on the motorcycle handle. No, it's not what you think. I'm only helping Chinedu with small things. Just temporary, nothing serious." But the damage was done. By evening, the mango tree was full again. Men, women, even children gathered not for his sermon, but for drama. People who hadn't attended Obioma's poverty church in months came to witness his disgrace. Ifeanyi, acting like an MC, cleared his throat and shouted, "Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and clap for the newest member of the Rich Men's Club. Our ambassador has officially resigned." The crowd erupted. Laughter shook the mango leaves. Mama Uchi at her shop laughed so hard she almost dropped her frying pan into the hot oil. Obioma forced a weak smile, trying to laugh along, but his chest was burning. For the first time, the ambassador of poverty had no words. His crown had fallen, and the whole village had seen it. Obioma told himself that the delivery job was only temporary, but his pockets began to tell a different story. Every Friday evening, Chinedu's manager placed a small envelope in his hands, neat, folded, and smelling of steady income. The first time he opened it, he blinked twice, almost expecting the notes to disappear. Money. His own money, earned without begging, without borrowing. The first thing he bought was a new pair of slippers. For years, his old ones had flapped like broken wings with every step. Now, as he walked down the dusty road, his feet moved silently, firmly, with a confidence he had never known. Next came clothes. Not many, but enough. One crisp shirt that did not sag at the elbows. One clean pair of trousers that did not fade with every wash. When he wore them, neighbors stared. Some laughed, whispering, "Fake rich man." But others nodded with quiet admiration. The loudest change of all came when Obioma entered his room with a brand new radio. For the first time, his nights were filled with high-life music and news reports instead of the noisy choir of his patched zinc roof. He would lie on his squeaky bed, smiling, tapping his feet, feeling like a king in his own tiny palace. At the market, people noticed his new gait. He no longer shuffled like a tired man. He walked with steps that said he had somewhere important to go. Even his laughter had changed, fuller, deeper, richer. And though Obioma tried to hide it under jokes and excuses, the truth gnawed at him. For years, he had preached that poverty was peace, but now, even the smallest taste of wealth was sweeter than all his mango tree sermons combined. The ambassador of poverty was slowly being converted, not by Chinedu's words, not by the village mockery, but by the simple dignity of having something in his pocket. The mango tree had not seen Obioma for weeks. Since his delivery job began, he carefully avoided evening gatherings, afraid of more mockery. But on this particular evening, he decided to pass by just to see what the committee was saying. As soon as he appeared in his neat blue shirt and quiet slippers, heads turned. Whispers followed him. Sunday the Okada man grinned mischievously and shouted, "Ambassador, you no go give us evening sermon again." The men burst into laughter, their sachets of gin shaking in their hands. Even Mama Uche at her shop leaned forward, eager to hear what would happen. For a moment, Obioma wanted to wave them off, but something rose inside him, part pride, part comedy. He stood tall, cleared his throat with exaggerated importance, and raised his hand as though addressing a real government assembly. "My people," he began, his voice carrying like a town crier. "Today I have an announcement. Effective immediately, I hereby tender my resignation letter." The crowd silenced for a second, then erupted with laughter. "Resignation letter from where?" someone shouted. Obioma continued, dead serious. "From the Ministry of Poverty Affairs, yes. As your faithful ambassador, I have served you long and well, but I can no longer carry this heavy office. From now on, I will only serve as advisor on small enjoyment." The mango tree square exploded. Men slapped their thighs, children rolled on the ground, and even Mama Uche at her shop laughed so hard she almost dropped her tray of fried akara. Obioma too laughed, shaking his head, but beneath the humor, he knew he meant every word. He had tasted something better than poverty. He could no longer defend the crown he once wore with pride. That evening, for the first time, the laughter at the mango tree did not sting. It felt freeing, like a man finally laying down the burden he had carried for too long. The ambassador of poverty was no more. In his place stood a man who had finally seen the truth. The day Obioma carried his small belongings into his new room, the whole street whispered. It wasn't a palace, no. Just a single-room apartment with freshly painted walls, a strong wooden door, and, most importantly, a ceiling fan that hummed gently when switched on. But to Obioma, it felt like he had moved from the bush straight into government house. As he lay on his bed that first night, the gentle breeze from the fan caressed his skin. The air was cool, steady, and comforting, so different from the suffocating heat and noisy zinc choir of his old room. He stared at the clean ceiling and smiled.
Memories began to flood his mind. The days when his patched zinc roof banged like angry drummers each time it rained. The slippers that used to flap like broken wings with every step. The cracked plastic chair he had once called Italian design. The sermons under the mango tree where he shouted that poverty was peace while his pockets rattled with emptiness. He chuckled bitterly. What kind of peace was that? Poverty had never given him peace. It had only given him shame, hunger, and helplessness. Now, with just the little money in his pocket, his life already felt different. He could eat when he wanted, buy soap without begging, and even listen to his small radio at night. He realized that poverty was never peace. It was a slow poison, draining life quietly until nothing remained. He closed his eyes and whispered a prayer of thanks, not just for his mother's recovery, but for Chinedu, the friend who had not only saved her life, but also dragged him out of the prison of pride. And so, the ambassador of poverty was no more. In his place stood a man who had finally seen the truth. My friends, what lesson did you learn from Obioma's story? Was it pride or the truth about poverty? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. If you enjoyed this story, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next powerful folktale. And don't forget, click on the recommended video waiting for you right now. It's another mind-blowing African story you will surely enjoy.